What is up, guys? It's the Sound Alchemist, joined by the only one, the one you know.
Gershwin.
That's a lot of ones. And today, we're back at it to give you guys more questions being answered in another For the Greater.
This is a video series where we answer the questions left by you, the viewer. If you have a question for us, comment down below. Put a question in front of your question because we get those questions first. And also, if you like the channel and you want to support us, you can by giving us a super thanks. If you do, ask us anything and we will answer it in the next episode, guaranteed. And we'll make you a thumbnail question. This question comes from Aaron Trujillo. Any way the Emperor will come back and deal with the Tyranid issue, or what way?
So the Emperor's answer to the Tyranids could be an interesting one, because we know, for one, the Astronomicon is like a beacon for the Tyranids. They're swarming this galaxy to come to one point, and that point is Terra, because that's where the Emperor is. So maybe the Emperor can use this beacon to guide them outside the galaxy, or to like a segment of space to take on the enemies of the Imperium. Say there's a huge orc population, send the Tyranids there.
Yeah, and that's kind of what the Imperium has been trying to do. So Inquisitor Kryptman actually did that. He took the Genestealer brew that he found in a Space Hulk, and he basically launched it into the Octavia sector, and that's what started the Octarian or Octavius Wars. Supposedly, that's what the old lore used to be. I don't know if that was updated in the latest rendition of the Octarian War.
Octarian, something like that.
Yeah. But the problem that I see is that if the Emperor encounters, like when he encountered Chaos, what's the initial thing he did? It seems like he tried to use it, manipulate the warp to his betterment. How do you manipulate Tyranid biology? Like, is he going to try to create another hive mind? Or is he going to use the hive mind in a certain type of way? Other than an attack dog, like we're describing, It's really hard for the Emperor to find any type of positive to the Tyranids.
Especially when they have the protection of the shadow of the warp. So like psychic powers and psychic beacons, astropath communications are all nullified.
Yeah.
And the Tyranids have that adaptation ability where if you're fighting Tyranids with like plasma weaponry, the next batch of Tyranids will be resistant to that. Yeah. So it's like you have to kill them hard and fast and all at once, or else they're just going to continue coming at you faster, stronger, and better.
Yeah.
We've seen the Blood Angels almost lose the entire chapter against them to the point where they had to ally with the Necrons. And even then, they just barely managed.
Yeah, so if anything, I think the Emperor's response to the Tyranids would be more like, okay, so let's fight them with biological warfare. Because we know that the Emperor has tampered with biology. That's how he created the Primarchs. He really wanted to infuse these super warriors with warp powers, genetic manipulation, all that kind of stuff. So maybe the Emperor could do the same thing for the Tyranids and create some type of pathogen for the Tyranids that wipes them out, not controls them.
Yeah, and that's going to be really scary because we've seen how powerful the Tyranids are when they consume Space Marines, Chapter Masters, even Custodes. Because right now the Norn's Emissary can take on a whole squad of Custodes and pretty much come out on top.
Yeah.
So what's the next step if they consume a Primarch? Maybe one of the missing Primarchs or a portion of the Primarch. That can get really scary really fast.
Yeah, that's true. Good question, though. Let's move on to the next one.
T's Family Kent says, could the Tyranids be tricked into swarming the warp to eternally fight Chaos?
They can be tricked into it. We just kind of talked about how they were tricked into fighting the orcs. Not even tricked, but
forced kind of.
Yeah.
The thing with Chaos, though, is that there's no biomass in the warp. It's all immaterial, make-believe, if you will.
Yeah.
So the Tyranids really gain no nourishment, nothing really from fighting Chaos in the warp.
Yeah, that's why you have to kind of maybe tease them with Dark Eldar, so send them into Kamra, which they kind of did.
Yeah. These things have all been done before. But again, it's only slowing down the Tyranids, not stopping them.
If anything, you have to remember that you can't control a wild beast. That goes for everything.
Even a trained dog bites back or something like that.
Really? Damn.
Something like that.
This question comes from Crypto Siren. Rats and mice are completely different animals, aren't they? It doesn't matter if one is inside or not. LOL. No, you're wrong. You're just wrong.
Yeah, when you see mice outside, they're rats. And when they come inside, they're mice.
Yeah, they put on a suit and jacket or a suit and tie when they walk in. That's what signifies that they're now becoming mice. and no longer rats. Rats wear like tattered shorts.
Yeah, that's why you hear sayings like street rats. You don't hear street mice.
No,
You hear biker mice from Mars.
but that's because
Mars is
they're home.
their home. And home is where the heart is.
Next question comes from Brian. BBBBBB. How orky are you right now? Pretty orky.
Yeah, all them orc spores. I think I'm a little bit brutally cunning, more so than cunningly brutal, but it depends on the day.
I think I'm brutally cunning, yeah. So we balance each other out. But in like the 40K aspect, I don't think I'm orky at all because I don't play orcs that much anymore. I'm all about Gene Stealer Cult.
He got a little extra hand coming out somewhere.
Third hand. Next one.
Timothy Henger. Okay, guys, I have a question. I remember years back that a couple of 40K tabletop players were discussing the parallels between 40K and Dune, and they said this theory, that 40K is in fact Dune just years into the future. Have you heard about this, and what are your thoughts on it?
Great question, just because Dune is also really popular right now because of the movies. Unfortunately, I don't think the timelines coexist.
Right.
Terra is gone within Dune. Like, Terra is not even talked about. Like, yes, it's the homeworld and stuff like that, but in 40K, Terra was always a focal point.
Right.
The Emperor himself, there were multiple Emperors, if I'm not mistaken, and the Emperor eventually turned into a giant worm because of the spice melange, right? And the spice melange helps with psychic abilities, but they're psychic abilities, not warp powers.
Right.
I don't think there's a warp.
No, they still have like astropaths and like in technology similar to 40K, but the one main difference is that 40K does not have a Zendaya.
It's true.
Dune does. So that already nicks it in the bud.
Did you ever watch Euphoria?
No, I never did.
She's interesting in that one. Anthony Besquick says, demons are toenails now? I've never thought of it like that before. Shake out bin bag and plot to take over the world. Shakes out bin bag. That's weird.
Yeah.
So like the essence of a demon, or a demon is in essence of a god.
Right. So like the god literally takes out a portion of himself and creates greater, lesser demons, etc.
Yeah.
Do that with what you will.
You're apparently going to take over the world.
Yeah. So in a way, wouldn't poop be a demon? Like we make demons when we go poop?
Yeah. And maybe that's why it goes into like...
But I mean, poop isn't us. Because we take nutrients from food and take out the excrement.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
Then what is us? Like, what are we? Because aren't like...
We are a multicellular organism.
Right, but those cells are constantly dying.
New ones are coming up.
And where do the new ones get made?
Mitosis, meiosis.
But it's energy, right? So we are all energy. We're beings of energy. Warp stuff.
Yeah, and energy is never lost, only transferred. So we always have been and always will be. Because the law of conservation of mass and energy.
Yeah, that's true. Time and space really is relative anyways. Next question.
This one is by River. How were Space Marine Legions made before they met their Primarchs? They wouldn't have gene seed, right?
They would. Gene seed is not... Primarchs don't have gene seed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the gene seed was made from a Primarch. Yeah. And then technology and scientists and stuff like that replicated that. But it's only finite. That is why Space Marines, when they die, you'll see like the apothecary using the Narthecium and all these things to extract the gene seed from fallen soldiers so they can go back to the gene seed labs to create more Space Marines. That's another reason why Magnus the Red attacked the gene seed labs on Fenris, to basically make sure that the space wolves don't go up to being like full power again.
Yeah, handicapping them. Yeah, hope that answers that question.
And if not, I'm sorry. I'll never do it again.
Next question comes from Duarcel. Maybe a noob question. What if the orcs had something like an Astronomicon to communicate and coordinate? Are we just waiting on an aberrant orc psyker to undo every race in the galaxy? So orcs communicate pretty well. Like in the Beast Arises book, they were projecting that whole message through the space Hulk. No, that giant ship that's basically like planet size, and it's like
Oh yeah,
a teleporter or whatever.
it's not the teleporter, but
That thing.
yeah, like the massive rock, whatever it's called.
Yeah, and it was it was projecting the message of the space or of the orcs of the Quark from a really long distance initially in the first book. So the orcs have the technology to communicate and travel the warp. It's just like what they're missing is that initial struck of intelligence, I guess.
Yeah, because like the orcs can do it all pretty much, but will they? Chances are no, because there's always going to be something goofy or something that messes up their plans to the point where they will never achieve their potential.
Yeah, orcs in general just suck. Like we created a short for you guys that explains why.
Yeah, but at the same time, like teleporters are a huge benefit to the orcs because usually they just slam their rocks on a planet and that kills a bunch of orcs. Teleporters, yeah, you could get stuck in the warp or be teleported inside of like a building and it just cuts you in half or whatever. But yeah, orcs are very dangerous, and if there ever is a return of the Brain Boys / Krorks, I think the universe, the galaxy, would be in danger.
Deep doo-doo.
More so than they are now with these unorganized orcs. Well, semi-unorganized. They still have Gaskell.
Yeah. He's generating WAAAGHs all across the galaxy.
Yeah, I mean, he is the prophet of the wall.
Yeah. This question comes from the big one. I've finally harvested those huge mushrooms growing in my shower. Now, what delicious meal should I make with them? Mushrooms are kind of gross. I'm not a big mushroom fan.
I only like mushrooms if they're grilled. And even then, I can only eat like 2 or 3.
You should probably eat them raw.
Yeah, why not? See what happens. Now, just make sure you have a spotter just in case.
To lift up the heavy weights that you're going to try to pick up because you're going to think you're as strong as an orc.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And might makes right. So you're trying to do right in the world.
For sure. Next question.
This one's by I'll Be Damned. One thought about this whole warp thing is that there are many realms of chaos. I don't think the warp is entirely chaos, but that seems to be the most interactive component between universes. Realms of order would be interesting, especially because of the sinister nature of 40K. It reminds me of the Golden Path in Dune, and it's meant to ensure humanity's survival by forcing it on a path, and all the people compromising of it. So basically, he's talking about like the worlds, or the mini realms in the warp, and how that's beneficial to humanity. I don't think so. Like, the warp is more detrimental to humanity.
Yeah.
Like, so, well here's the thing. Because basically the Emperor wanted all humans to become psychers to achieve their highest potential and be able to govern themselves as a superpower in the galaxy. However, humanity by themselves, without a leader, aren't able to do that because of greed, corruption, and basically all these sins and all this stuff coming at them. So because of that, the Emperor still needed to be here to lead them and push them towards their path. However, the warp, with all these gods and evil things in there, humanity can't control that. So even with the Emperor leading them, that's still going to lead to wars, that's going to lead to like portals and demons spilling out. So I think humanity cannot use the warp for their benefit, and that's why they're in the situation they are in now.
Yeah. There was something that came up right now where I was thinking, when you were describing the domain of order, for a second I thought, like, within the Immaterium there is chaos. It's everything's like all over the place. And that chaos creates the opportunity for free will and things to change, and that's why Tzeentch has like the web of lies. What if the web of lies is just a smaller portion of like a web of destinies, where there's multiple destinies for different factions or characters, and the actual creation of a domain of order by the Emperor is like something that solidifies a certain portion of that web of destinies, where that destiny is never going to change.
Yeah, that's really interesting, because without change, that kind of takes away the chaos of it all.
Yeah, and that's why it would be a domain of order, no chaos, but also no free will. So then you have like this God Emperor who is doing something good, because then that means that destiny is always going to be destiny.
Right.
There's no way to move it, but at the cost of getting rid of your free will.
Yeah.
So it's like a good and a bad, and it kind of like, if the God Emperor were to be created as that, then that's his negative. Because like every god has a positive and a negative. So,
Right.
yeah. I don't know.
Interesting. Something to ponder.
Yeah. Think about it, guys, and comment down in the comment section below. Thank you guys so much for watching and listening, and we'll talk tomorrow.
Yeah. As always, it's been the Sound Alchemist here with
Gershwan.
and we are out.